Joining me live now is the High Commissioner to Australia, Victoria Treadell. Vicky, great to see you. You've got a new Prime Minister, I think the third in 6 years. We know a thing or two about that here in Australia. But what is Liz Truss like? What do Australians need to know about her?
Well, good morning, Laura, and it's fantastic to be with you this morning. Well, I've had the great privilege of hosting the Prime Minister, first in September 2019 when she was our Trade Minister and came out here. And of course, within a year of that visit, she launched our free trade agreement negotiations with then counterpart Simon Birmingham. And of course, again, this year, as our Foreign Secretary, when she came out for our 2+2 talks with her then counterpart. So I've seen her in action on 2 occasions. The first thing I would say to Australians is that she is a great friend of Australia. She has prioritised this relationship to one of strategic partnership. And as our new Prime Minister, I see no change of direction. Indeed, I see us increasing the pace of our engagement. And I spoke to Prime Minister Albanese on Monday evening about the transition to whoever at that time was going to be our new PM. And I know he was clear that he would be in touch with her as soon as if she was confirmed as PM, which indeed he was, in terms of an immediate message to her. And our 2 PMs will be speaking in the next day to have their first Prime Minister to Prime Minister conversation on the big agenda issues that matter to both our countries.
And what might they be? What are they going to discuss in that first phone call, do you think? When you spoke to Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, did he relay any concerns which he'd like to speak to Liz Truss about?
Not really. We have shared ambitions, we have shared aims, we have shared concerns. And it's important for people to remember that they have already met. When Prime Minister Albanese went to the NATO summit in Madrid, he, apart from meeting our then Prime Minister, also met Liz Truss, who was then our Foreign Secretary. So they've had first contact, if you like. And both sides are determined to build and continue a very strong relationship. We are like-minded liberal democracies. We broadly see the world in the same way. We see the challenges, but importantly, we see the opportunities. And at the opportunity end of our relationship is seeing through the legislative process in our respective parliaments to realise our free trade agreement and bring it into effect next year. And on security and defence and the challenges that we all face in a world that feels a little less stable, things like our trilateral partnership with the US, AUKUS, is also a top priority and remains so. So those will be the sorts of things they will be talking about. Business continuity, how we engage, how we embrace the opportunities of the future, and how we address the challenges that confront us.
Yeah, there are quite some challenges for your countrymen and women at the moment. The energy crisis. I mean, it is hard to get your head around what ordinary Britons are paying. I mean, last August they were paying about a month on average, maybe £200 a month for their power bills. Now that is up near $2,000. What is going on? And are there any lessons that Australia can learn?
Well, the first thing I would say that the energy crisis the world is seeing and that Europe is feeling at the sharp end is a consequence of Vladimir Putin's egregious actions against Ukraine. That has caused this problem. That has disrupted supply chains, but also because we need to diversify away from such dependencies. Prime Minister Liz Truss was very clear on day one. If you heard her speech yesterday outside Number 10, this is a top priority for her. And in the next day or so, we'll be hearing what she will be doing to address this challenge that is facing every family across the United Kingdom, but also families across the European continent. Food security is another challenge, and that again is a consequence of the actions of Russia counter to international law. And that's why she made very clear that we must continue to stand up to Russia. And it's important to note that her first phone call as Prime Minister was to President Zelensky to reaffirm Britain's commitment in support of Ukraine. That's how we're going to deal with this in the long term. But in the short term, I know on the domestic agenda, she's equally focused on how she and her government will support British families across our United Kingdom.
Before I let you go, High Commissioner, of course, with the new Prime Minister, many things can change. There's a lot of diplomats that serve as the pleasure of the Prime Minister. Are you quite friendly with Liz Truss? Will you be staying in Canberra?
Well, as everyone knows, diplomats have a particular length of their assignment. So I'm committed to my full 4-year posting. And we shall see what happens. Look, this is a great job. I'm focused on what we need to do today. If I look at the pattern of activity in the last few months since your new government came in, we have had a series of ministerial and senior official visits, each one pushing and driving our shared agenda forward. Only last week, Australia Treadell, our Trade Minister, was here. She had great engagements, including with Don Farrell. We focused on the free trade agreement, the opportunities ahead, and how we make that real and tangible. And just the fact that we've been talking about the FTA has seen a 26% increase of inquiries from British companies about the opportunities here in the Australian market. Food and drink sales went up exports from the UK went up 16.6% last year alone. So if we can build on that momentum, it's good for the Australian economy and it's good for the British economy. And frankly, given the economic headwinds we are facing, we need to drive up trade and investment and export. So that's a big agenda for my team and I across our Australian network.
It certainly is. Vicky Treadell will be speaking soon.
Thank you very much, Laura.